So, like, we're still gonna be a little bit. But there's been one person who's been waiting since, like, midday. Would you mind just putting something in chat so I can figure out how to ban people? I won't ban you, but I can't ban myself, and I want to look at the mirror, at the menu, in case people don't follow the spoiler rule. Thank you, bye. They just left. Not good. What was the joke? I was about to do it. Je sais pas français, Samoa, and welcome back. No, welcome back to Star Trek Prodigy. Welcome to Star Trek Prodigy Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2, Into the Breach, which definitely this live stream wasn't called Discovery Season 5 for a bit. Okay, Netflix, thank you for picking up Prodigy. I am very grateful. But this, right? Hang on, that's a button apparently. We'll get to there. You'll see, but Netflix and I are going to have some problems. Yeah, before we get started too into this, there we go. That's the problem, is they put that on the screen. Before we get too into this, as you can probably see in that pinned chat, and I alluded to, this is different, because you could go watch all 20 episodes of Prodigy. Here's the important bit. I haven't. You could watch them now. The way we're reviewing this is, well, for one, there's a strict no spoiler policy. We're not going to talk about anything after the episode I'm reviewing. This is a double episode, so in this case, we will not talk about anything after episode 2. Just no spoilers. I'm not gonna like permanent ban you unless you come in and like, Snape killed Dumbledore. But no, it's like you might get just don't. You're all good. I trust you. But we're not gonna do spoiling. So if you want to watch along with me, you can do that. Because after we're done with this episode, either tomorrow or literally right after this stream, depends how I'm feeling, I'm gonna go watch the next episode and then we'll review that. That's how we're doing Prodigy. But yeah, it's good. It's good to have Prodigy back. It's been a long road getting from Season 1 to Season 2. It's been a long time, but the time is finally here. We can stop threatening French people with violence. They can spoil it, because what I just talked about. But, we're no longer, everyone can watch Prodigy. We've got this beautiful Rok-Tahk thumbnail from my wife. But also, as much as I just said, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything. But before we get into the review, I want to point out, I made all 20 of these thumbnails in advance. And so that means I noticed, I just checked Memory Alpha. What's episode 3? Do I want to review that as I was waiting here? And like half of the episode names are different from what Memory Alpha said yesterday. It's probably, they were like translated from French, and the English titles are more interesting because it's the native language. I specifically want to point out, though, that one of the episodes was called The Race, right? That episode is now called The Fast and the Curious, which may just be the best episode title in the entire franchise. Well done. I can't wait for that. This one didn't change, but in the future, I'll tell you if they change, because it is actually kind of interesting to know. But yeah, let's get into the episode. Okay, chat, what's worse, Time Bar or just me flicking in every few seconds so we don't get that Netflix overlay. Can we all laugh at Paramount, who just increased subscription prices? It now costs $1 more to subscribe to Paramount, and we're all laughing in Netflix. I've decided we're doing it this way. Yeah, Prodigy Season 2. All in all, the first episode, kind of middle of the road. I mean, it's mostly setting things up, especially the first one. Not just, like, the second one got better, but it was reintroducing stuff. I didn't rewatch Prodigy Season 1. I should have. I didn't. Whoops. Hopefully I don't regret that. I'm kind of busy for the next week. But I personally felt really more invested in Gwen and everything that's going on with her. I think all of Gwen's storyline, actually, I was into. I was a little less so for, I guess, the rest of them. We'll call them like Dell's crew, I guess. But there was a few things in there. I mean, generally, just I like Rok-Tahk. I like Rok-Tahk. I like her attitude, towards Starfleet. It's nice seeing the kids in the academy. It's a little odd seeing like humans and Andorians and stuff in Prodigy's art style, but in a good way. The series is moving forward. I hope this goes somewhere. But on the kind of their side, the main group, I'm mostly intrigued with Zero's sort of arc they seem to be setting up, that he's non-corporeal, and, he feels like he's missing out because he can't, I mean, you saw the episode, because he can't, experience touch or any of these sort of sensations. And I found it really clever that that's where they're going with in a season where we have the Doctor, who, of course, has gone through similar things, can console Zero in, like, a very unique way. And beyond that, the Doctor has also experienced, like, touch and sensation in that episode when he took over Seven's body. It's been a while since I've seen Voyager, but I remember that one. But, I mean, after... like, this was kind of set up. They've gone into the wormhole now, so we should really kick off. We should get more interesting things there. So I'm not going to complain too much because, again, Gwen was very interesting. Not a good sign when I already feel my throat. If you've seen my other reviews, you'll know. If you haven't, welcome. I'm a sucker for first contact stories. Do we get any Gwen in this episode, actually? Hang on. That call. Oh, maybe we don't get Gwen till episode 2. I watched these back to back. But yeah, I'm a sucker for first contact stories. So, actually, legitimately, an entire season where we stay on one planet that is about to do starting its first contact with Starfleet from the perspective of not Starfleet is literally like the series that's like my dream series. So in Deep Space Nine, we stay in one space. We really get to like know this culture. But it's first contact. That seems to basically be what Gwen is like, her storyline is. I get it's not the same thing. At some point she's gonna join up with these people like Del and everyone again. But yeah, there's a reason I'm really enjoying that. Plus, just, I find her relationships more interesting. With her father, from the past or the future? Come on, Nathan, we gotta decide this one now. You see, it's the problem with timey-wimey stuff, at least for me, is that generally it's not difficult to understand. It is difficult to describe, though. Because Gwen's dad, we all know what I mean. I wish I had seen season 1 again, because I do like we're really getting a lot of through lines, a lot of stuff building off of season 1 from there. And I'm just really excited to see where Gwen's storyline goes. But as I just discovered, Gwen's not in episode 1. I will be honest as well. I literally didn't realize... first off, this is like the Voyager holodeck, isn't it? But secondly, that Murph was actually like also going to join Starfleet until now. I guess I always like he was a pet, right? Like the show described him kind of like as Rok-Tahk's pet. But hey, Starfleet doesn't discriminate. But yeah, okay, so if you're new, what we're going to do now is we're just basically going to go scene by scene. We're going to go through the episode. I don't think I have too much to say about this one episode, especially if chat doesn't bring anything up. I know it's a bit of a weird time for me to stream. But yeah, just go scene by scene. Netflix. And see what jogs my memory. The first being, I found it really interesting they didn't change the title sequence, especially considering a lot of the characters has visually changed, and Hollow Janeway isn't a character anymore. Knowing the episode titles, I have a feeling we'll get some callbacks. I mean, this is literally the Protostar. I would expect wouldn't be too hard to change the title sequence, assuming they had, like, the raw file. Like, you could probably basically swap out character models. I guess it depends on the sequence. Like, you couldn't do Jenkum's arm. But I imagine this is because, you know, they got canceled, and the title sequence was probably, like, the last thing they were gonna do. But hopefully, if it is, like, a cost-saving mechanism on Netflix's part, this is, like, the only one. The only time it really comes into effect things. But yeah, I did enjoy, especially easing us into the series, seeing everyone basically just having a good time at the Academy. If this is what Starfleet Academy... Netflix. If this is what Starfleet Academy, the show, is like, I hope so. God, I'm going to be really upset if they replaced Prodigy with Academy and Prodigy had the best depiction of the Academy. But, like, yeah, I genuinely am interested in what's happening. And, like, just their little discussions and all that stuff. Fun note, though. Are titles spoilers? Here's the question we have to do with here. But I do have a feeling that this Rok-Tahk here is giving a speech about tribbles and how they found a way to stop tribbles from multiplying. Which, by the way, I'm going to allow this tribble reference. I usually want us to be done with tribbles. Like, yes, Troubles and Tribbles was a great episode. Let's please move on. I have a feeling this is actually going to come up later. Like, there's an episode title coming up. I also found it noteworthy. Like, Starfleet is pretty diverse in Prodigy. Of course, they're animated. It's like just as easy for them to do an alien species that's humanoid as it is to do a human. Place your bets. How many episodes until I remember that that this Prodigy logo comes up? But I felt the Academy was weirdly human-centric. Like, a lot of the background characters we saw were human. And yes, the Academy's on Earth, but it's pretty well established that this is, like, the Academy. That everybody goes to this specific campus in San Francisco. Not too much to say about that extended sequence. We got, I mean, the bit I'd already seen because it was teased. It was released at some point ago. It's nice seeing the Doctor again, you know? He's, in some ways, he's like an interesting or unusual choice for a character, like a main character to bring back. But in the same way, he's like the obvious choice. I mean, I'm sure we'll get a lot of use out of the fact that he's a hologram and like a lot of basically narrative purpose, a lot of interesting scenarios. As I said, we already had like him consoling Zero about how Zero was non-corporeal. Brilliant. Robert Picardo is just slipping into the role of the Doctor again. He sounds the same. He looks the same. Yeah, even better. Bring Robert Picardo back for the animated series where he literally looks, the same. He hasn't aged. And he's someone that I thought would be good to bring back for ages. I mean, a lot of us have, because he's one of, like, the 3 written characters of Voyager. Ouch. But, everyone loves that dynamic. I wonder, as I get a drink, actually, I wonder if they can find a way to get 7 of 9 in this show. Like, getting Janeway, the Doctor, and 7, getting that kind of, like, trio, rather, that was late Voyager could be interesting, but 7 has had a lot of screen time. So, I had a thought to move off of there, and I have now completely lost it. Oh, yeah, if I were to have one complaint, it's that this did seem quite a little small world syndrome, which, if you don't know that term, I've used it before, I think it comes from, like, sitcoms, but it's basically the idea that literally everything in the universe ties back to, like, your small set of main characters. So essentially we have, a Federation 1,000 light years across that is evidently able to just go to the Delta Quadrant now, on a whim. And we had, like, Picard name-checked 2 or 3 times. We had, like, casually, we had a lot of... I mean, you have the Doctor, you have Janeway, sort of, like, implicit parts of the narrative. We have Voyager A. We'll get to Voyager A. There was a little bit of small world syndrome, especially for the kids show that's meant to introduce people to Star Trek, so presumably the references won't be picked up. At least, like, another show. But it wasn't, like, destroying the narrative, and we do have to bear in mind, this is right after Lower Decks. I actually wanted to check, so there's a reference to the supernova. This is when, like, Janeway and Picard and, like, all that stuff is recent and active history. Not Memory Alpha, not for the timeline. Wikipedia has a fantastic timeline. I was curious about that, because, like, Lower Decks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lower Decks is going to overlap Prodigy. In fact, it already has. You can see this is only seasons 1 to 3. The supernova's here. We are probably here in 84, 1, 2, 3. So yeah, 3-4 years we were prepping for the supernova. I'm not actually sure when the Romulan attack is. In fact, when was the Romulan attack? God, there goes my encyclopedic knowledge. Mars. Let's just go Mars. Memory Alpha. Yeah, and I mean, small world syndrome is interesting as I just get this up. Because you have, like, say Utopia Planitia in the space docks and all that is sort of like, yeah, Utopia Planitia is the famous place, where all the ships are built. But also it's the famous place where all the ships were built. So obviously that's where they're building Voyager A. I got it here, 2385, which is next year. So yeah, we're not going to encounter the attack in Lower Decks in Prodigy, unless Prodigy gets really timey-wimey. But that's interesting. Like, halfway through the project, I guess that synth attack was. Whoops. Let me get more in here. Yep. I think stuff we'd already basically known going into the season. We had the wormhole that links to the past. I can sort of forgive Del finding this all extremely complicated. But again, this is one, if you've watched me a lot, I'll criticize a lot. Is it actually this hard to understand temporal mechanics? Or are the people in sci-fi temporal idiots, essentially? Because I genuinely don't know, and I want to. And every time I ask the question, I know it sounds super smug. My curiosity outweighs my humility in this case. But I like, when you're so reliant on time travel in your story, especially when it might have been a very long time since your audience has been here. Like, I didn't watch season 1 again. Um, it's good to get like lay down of how the rules work. We know about the wormhole. We get some better explanation later on. There are some oddities that maybe watching season 1 would help me at that don't really line up. For one, I really hope we kind of get a better explanation. I don't really hope, but I do hope the whole how come Gwen isn't going to cease existing by changing her history. I hope we get a little more than Didn't You Read Temporal Mechanics 101? Again, with episode titles, there is an episode literally called Temporal Mechanics 101. So we'll probably learn a lot about the time rules then. I'm willing to accept it because, there's probably been some time travel that worked that way. And time travel in Star Trek is really inconsistent. It really depends on, like, how exactly you are doing the time travel. I think they're going with a sort of Marvel, we're creating alternate timelines, which narratively I don't really love because you aren't saving your people from civil war. You're just making a new people that aren't going to have civil war. But also, I think that is just genuinely new for how Star Trek works. Splintering timelines as opposed to timelines changing. I think that has been pretty consistent. Alternatively, the second point was the wormhole, which, by the way, well done actually, like, laying this out, because most people should be able to infer it, but this is a common critique in similar stories. We established the wormhole is linked to now and 52 years in the future, and time is moving concurrently. This makes sense. Theoretically, with big air quotes, this is actually how, like, wormhole time travel would work. I mean, the wormhole is moving through time. There's actually, this is, at least mathematically, I believe one of the ways you could make time travel work is if you could create a wormhole, which again is another topic, but if you could create a wormhole and then you could move the other end at like relativistic speeds, the two ends of the wormholes would be moving through time separately. And so essentially you'd create a time machine where you could go back in time, but never further back than when you originally created the wormhole. It's interesting stuff, at least theoretically. But yeah, that's good. I get that. I was a little confused by the fact that they can't go into the wormhole until Chakotay sends the protostar. Now, logically, I understand, because if they stop him sending the protostar, that's a big paradox. However, that implies that this wormhole and the wormhole Chakotay sent the protostar through are the same thing. And this is where my haziness on season 1 might come in. I mean, maybe they were. Maybe, like, this is totally consistent. But feels a bit weird the protostar would leave, 90 light years from Earth. And no one noticed. You know what? Now that I say that, that is a long way away. But that's not my confusion. My confusion is how come Chakotay hasn't launched the protostar yet? Because the wormhole is synced with now and 52 years in the future. Okay, wait, hang on. Let me get... I wish wait, I do have paper. Okay, hang... But you can't see it. Paint. I guess I'm just going to keep this window open. Paint. Okay. Let me just invent time. There we go. Let's just put, Janeway is there. Let's get bigger. I do have Photoshop. Thank you for asking. Let's get Janeway there. Wait. Janeway's in the future. Chakotay's in the future. Let's get Janeway, and then Chakotay 52 years in the future. So this is where the episode ends, right? We'll call this episode 2. So like here, Chakotay sends the protostar back in time. So there's the proto. In fact, let's just call this Del. So slightly after Del and crew go, they send the protostar back. The protostar has the chip. Yeah, it's like there. The protostar has the chip that Janeway gets. Yes, this is what you want for my live streams. So where did the wormhole? The wormhole, we'll mark in blue, was like created here. This was season 1. This was the start of the wormhole. So yeah, no, if the wormhole opened like here, and then Chakotay did the SOS, everything lines up. Chakotay's done the SOS from the protostar, which he hasn't launched yet, because that happens here. No, the timeline makes sense. I just needed pen and paper. Yeah. Now here's the question, right? This makes perfect sense to me. Is everyone else following this Microsoft Paint document? Season 1, protostar, yada yada. Time, we'll make time go. Oop, make time black. Yep, it's important to me. There we go. And then we'll just use this totally reasonable Paint document. So yeah, I assume the wormhole, when they launched the protostar in season 1, it opened sometime before Chakotay launched the protostar, which is why they picked up his SOS. But they have footage of Chakotay launching the protostar because, of course, the protostar comes from after where the wormhole opened. And these lines right here are right now. Del is going right before they launched the protostar. Uncloaked. Yes, apparently the Federation did a little peek when they were building the Defiant. And I guess season 2 is going to take place, like, there, if this was a circle. Makes sense to me. So yeah, no, it works out. Checks out. Kid show, everybody. No, let's address this, right? Because my wife and I have this conversation a lot. Yes, Prodigy is made for kids. It's a kid show. Distinct from a family show. I mean, it's a kid show. However, that is absolutely no way an excuse to write a messy or bad plot, because plenty of good shows exist that are clean, solid plots, and it just makes it more enjoyable for the adults watching, for one thing, and also everybody massively underestimates kids anyway. I mean, what was I watching when I was a kid? Like TOS. You know? I was watching Matt Smith's Doctor Who, and I never thought River Song was confusing. So there you go. Yeah, it would be nice to kind of outline, just flash up that Paint document. That I do like the gag of a Paint document that just gets more progressive as time goes on. But really, just draw it out. Actually, I'd love a sequence where they literally draw it out just in fancier graphics, just so, you know, everyone's on the same page, because just drawing it out helps. The Voyager A ship I didn't do a video reviewing. I think I did a community post. You know what? Give me a mo. I'm going to go grab Voyager. You can probably still hear me as I go grab Voyager. You've seen the pictures. It's just across the room. I'm going to get the stand as well. And here's Voyager. I didn't grab my Enterprise E. Let's not get ridiculous here. Yeah, there you go. Don't worry about it. The Voyager falls off its stand, and every time I'm like, don't chip. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Voyager A. Oh, I should have grabbed the Voyager B. I'm going to need a lineage line soon. I am fine with a Voyager A now. What are we, like 5 years after Voyager, give or take? Voyager, it at least narratively went through a lot in the Delta Quadrant, even if it doesn't look like that. It's historic. Lower Decks made it a museum. Yeah, fair. I wonder if we were going to use the Voyager originally, but Lower Decks made in a museum? Probably not. Uh, I don't know. It's like the Protostar. Whoops. Which actually, I would like to get a picture of the Protostar as I talk about this. Star Trek. Whoops. Protostar. Yeah, don't worry about it. It does that. USS Protostar. Yeah, I mean, I've never been a huge fan of the Prodigy visual style. Especially, like, the exteriors just don't really seem to match with the Starfleet both immediately before and immediately during and immediately after Prodigy is set. The proportions are pretty good. The Protostar you could excuse a little in its experimental nature. I think it works if Lower Decks and Picard didn't exist, basically. Maybe it's some experimental thing. It is reminiscent of the armor Voyager had in the finale, like when it was from the future. I think it's still from the future. Like the Voyager from Endgame is from a point beyond this. It's pretty good. I need the model. I need the fan home model. The Sovereign class nacelles. I don't know. To me, I think maybe the main problem is that it's perhaps too much like the original Intrepid class, which is a beautiful design, that it could only ever be compared unfavorably. If you don't know, by the way, the Voyager B is a Pathfinder class, which is a pretty good step in the lineage. I just don't think this bridges the gap between a Intrepid and I literally just said it, Pathfinder. But I guess the Voyager line with a Voyager J is always pretty consistent. You know, this general Intrepid shape doesn't change. But I'm fine calling it the hero ship. I wonder, actually, if it will really be the hero ship. Because presumably they're not going to send the Voyager through the wormhole. I don't know. It's not bad. We've certainly had worse designs, but we've definitely had better. And Voyager is a good base. I mean, we're doing some interesting things, actually. Looking at my model, I can see where they're getting this from the original Voyager, but this whole sort of weird indent thing underneath, I think I'll definitely come around when I'm actually holding the model. As for the interiors, not bad. We'll get to Nova Squadron. Obviously, Voyager reminiscent. I miss the carpet, even in animation, where you add this color, and you can definitely add the Star Trek nature. I just don't think Starfleet should be all metal. Oh, there's a good shot of Voyager. Yeah, I'll come around. I think I like it, actually. I'm gonna go ahead and say I like it. That was fast. Yeah, some rooms I like more than others. I mean, the shuttle bay, I think this aesthetic kind of works. Like, you'd never have carpet in the shuttle bay. But the cafeteria is what I'm looking for now. It's just missing some sort of homely vibe. I saw that shot of the cafeteria. Love the Protostar model, by the way. Even in animation, we have Eagle Moss replicas in our starships. Oh my god! There we go. Nope. There we go. It just feels unhomely. There's a lot I like. I like the windows, but this is, I guess it's utilitarian. It's just never. It's never felt particularly Star Trek, which would be okay if you were pushing a timeline forward, but when you're living next to Lower Decks, it's like you're telling me the Protostar and the Voyager A exist alongside the Titan and the Cerritos and the Vancouver. They're so 24th century. Give me a little bit of overlap, and I'd accept it more. And again, Picard has... I guess Picard doesn't go into the metal. You know what? That's fair. But it's hardly my least favorite era of Starfleet design. I do like this corridor, but I imagine if I were to pull an image of Voyager's corridors, I would be like, yeah, Voyager's better. But this light and this floor lights the blue. The blue really helps. Nova Squad we have again, very well established. It's TNG, isn't it? It's the one with Nick Locarno. We recently had him in Lower Decks. It's interesting that we're getting more out of Nova Squad. I feel like they've probably appeared more in modern Star Trek than classic, but don't quote me on that. But I guess it kind of makes sense because Nova Squad was sort of a late addition. I guess you had Red Squad, which was basically the same thing. It is interesting, though, I guess, that you had Nova Squad, like their first year, presumably, I guess. No, I think we're told they're new. There was like a high-profile incident where a cadet died, and they were like, yeah, you know what? Let's continue this program. But oh well. As I said, not much. Mostly just looking at Voyager. My heart stopped a little bit when the turbolift went sideways, but then I was like, oh yeah, it's like, it's the future. I guess the computer knows what it's doing. Engineering, I'm sure we'll get to see more of. I'll have to see more of the warp core. I kind of like the idea that it's encased in some sort of cooling thing. You know, like, not necessarily ice. We'll get to Citation Ops. But yeah, I like the idea of a semi-visible warp core that's in some sort of cooling thing. We have slipstream drive. I'm never going to find engineering, am I? The slipstream drive, so it's interesting. I think we're definitely going to the Delta Quadrant. Like, you don't give them a slipstream drive unless you're going to use it. But it is nice to kind of justify, like, how we just got to the Delta Quadrant in Season 1, no problem. And it was one of my biggest critiques is you just made the galaxy so small. I wish we'd seen signs of this in Picard. Like, theoretically, we could just go said hi to the Dominion. Like, at that rate. But, I mean, if you just let the Federation go to the Delta Quadrant, the Gamma Quadrant, you give it this speed, which is what a lot of games do around this time anyway, then you do open up the possibility to use the things that particularly Voyager established, because you could always use the wormhole to get to the Gamma Quadrant. And there's story potential there. I mean, there's even story potential to have, like, Borg Dominion stuff. You know, things that otherwise might be a lot more difficult to do. And I guess it means narratively you have to rely less on how close everything is in the Federation. I liked in TNG, over the course of 7 years, you can kind of see them moving around the Federation. Like, they start over by the Romulans and Klingons, and they slowly move their way over to Cardassian space. It's quite cool, but, you know, TNG, I guess, had less of a well-defined galaxy. I hate to say baggage, but yes, less baggage. Seeing Cetacean Ops is like a mainstay is interesting. That's the comment, I guess. I think we can have some fun moments here. Everyone loves Cetacean Ops. Yeah. Del, you can tell this is how much of a nerd I am, is genuinely... this is always a problem with Star Trek. When the doctor's describing all this stuff, like, you could go over treaties and, like, first contact protocols and, like, all this traditionally boring stuff, I am genuinely getting excited. So I'm like, yes, please, I genuinely want to read these famous lectures, and I want these protocol and policies. This sounds amazing. This sounds like a dream. This one wins because Del absolutely doesn't want to do that. Like, he was the captain, and now he's not even in the academy. But in other Star Treks, they've done it, and I've been like, you don't understand, you're writing Star Trek here. So I guess kudos to Prodigy, but I like it. Prodigy understands, right? Prodigy has Rok-Tahk, who is like genuinely enthusiastic about everything that's happening, which is maybe like the extreme end. But they also have literally everyone else except Del is also realizing this is like serious and taking it seriously, but also genuinely interested and engaged in their coursework. And like, yeah, what we're doing is cool, and that's why we're doing it. And it's really, really great to see. Academy, right? You're coming up, Star Trek Academy. If you write your characters, more than one, you're allowed one Del, but if you write your characters complaining about like their coursework and like how you would imagine a stereotypical American high school teen, you failed. The Academy needs to write literally exactly the cast Prodigy has. You can have a Del, and then you have a Rok-Tahk, and everyone else is just like, yeah, I'm doing this because I'm interested in the material. That's why I'm at the Academy. God, I hope Academy really understands the show that it's writing. It isn't just an American high school teen drama. Again, not a whole lot to say. Interesting that we can communicate across, like, quadrants. But again, you have practice from Voyager. Do you think Del is just hooked up to the Pathfinder project from Voyager? Like, yeah, we just use this for civilian communication now. What Barclay made to talk to Voyager. I need to watch Voyager again. Yeah, here we go. I already talked about. Honestly, this like clip here was the highlight of episode 1. And I will say, while we're on Zero, I really wasn't a fan of Zero's redesign in season 1, but I said it may work in whatever ship they're going to put him in. It may be a case of like, this looks bad because you don't see where it's going to go. That is absolutely the case. This Zero fits in perfectly with the Voyager A. And I think they knew what they were doing. They probably didn't have the Voyager A designed, but they probably had some sketches, some idea, and at least they knew the general aesthetic, and this fits. Over here, this is actually like what the Prodigy design is, with the interiors at least, is this right here. Thank you, Netflix. Is a top-tier sickbay. This is so obviously a Star Trek sickbay. It's just clearly. But other than the LCAR system, it is an uncolored Blender render. Like, it's the render you send off to Alex Kurtzman so that he can give you the thumbs up before you spend, like, a month coloring it in. And, yeah, Star Trek is mostly grays, but God, put some piece of color somewhere. You have the beds. I mean, it does help when the Starfleet officers are around and they're in these colored uniforms. But also our main cast is in gray. You know, this ship is like crewed by cadets, which honestly could probably have handled the evacuation better than this, but whatever. I'm also realizing that whoever's done the model for the Doctor has spent too long on, let's see, it's Prodigy, so we'll say the Doctor's butt, not the Doctor's other words for butt. Yes, no one ever really swears in the comments, but as a rule, we try and keep things as appropriate as whatever show we're reviewing, and so I'm never gonna do or like say anything that Prodigy wouldn't. Prodigy put this butt here. That wasn't me. Prodigy said butts are okay. Place your bets. Do we get a fart joke this season? And yeah, I don't have much to say, honestly. I think I'm just going to move over to season 2. I will notice, actually, the cuts seem very abrupt. There you go. Someone on Prodigy likes butts, because you can also see Del's butt in here. But yeah, it's for the commercial breaks, I assume, because season 1 was aired on Nickelodeon. Season 2 was, of course, made assuming that was going to be the case. Because, of course, Paramount and Netflix don't have ads. But Prodigy, like, I think it's the Netflix ad breaks, and maybe it's like all broadcast TV is like this. I'm just only noticing because, sorry, I haven't seen broadcast television since Discovery Season 1, Episode 1. I got something in my throat. But it's a little jarring, and especially even these jumps to the credits. I wonder if this is another maybe cost-cutting thing. Like, there was going to be smoother transitions and stuff, but Netflix didn't want to foot the bill, or Paramount had already written it off. Yeah, but as I said, let's move on to episode 2, which Netflix doesn't let you have 2 Netflix tabs open at the same time. So I'm going to have to go jump to, well, you're not looking. Here we go. Actually, you'd think at least changing the intro to have the Voyager A would be easy, because like you already have the ship flying as like models. It's literally just a swap. But anyway, where are we actually starting? Yeah, Gwen. I mean, this episode was not mostly Gwen, but a lot Gwen. I really love this outfit. We're probably going to see some cool cosplay stuff with it. People figuring out how to do this hair. Odd that Gwen has an outfit like this, yes, but it looks good. Screw it. I don't know. It's Gwen. She painted her outfit. Yeah, as I said, I'm just a sucker for first contact stories. I totally forgot this character existed or what happened to them, so I'm just going to assume that in season 1, she went back in time somehow in a controlled manner. Oh, wait, no, she was back in time. There we go. Quick, get the paint document. Yeah, no, she just, like, flew to Solus. Is the planet's name Solus? Is in, like, the Hell of a Boss character? Which is a show we're definitely not going to talk about, given what I just said about the ratings. But yeah, I mean, I really hope Prodigy goes into, like, the proper first contact stuff. Regardless of what anyone else might think, I know the writers of the show are not letting the fact that this is a kid's show hold them back. You know, they're writing it as if it was a show for adults, complexity-wise at least. So if they wanted to, they absolutely would tell, like, a political first contact story and be like, yeah, the kids are going to understand it. You underestimate children. But I could also see it not really being the focus of Prodigy. However, Solum and its fate are obviously inherently tied into the narrative. I think there's a lot of potential, depending on how they do the timelines, of Gwen changing things now, affecting the crew 52 years in the future, which has some very interesting storytelling potential. You almost have a direct conflict between the two A-plots, where, but this is why I would love, because again, you don't really want, I don't think you want a split timeline, as I already said. You have one crew trying to rescue Chakotay from the timeline during Civil War, but you also have somebody else who concurrently, because the wormhole is moving in our real time, is trying to prevent that Civil War and that timeline, which feels like a really natural way to write. When Gwen succeeds, the timeline Chakotay is in ceases to exist. So there is time pressure to rescue Chakotay. He will die if they don't get him. And there's also narrative pressure where you want Gwen to succeed, because Civil War is bad. But you don't want her to succeed right now, because, like, Del and Janeway and stuff are 2 days from the wormhole or something like that, you know? I think there's so much room for great storytelling potential. So far, this has been a very clearly thought out timeline. I have faith it will be sound. You know, if not perfect, at least like all the main bits are there. You know, Back to the Future is a great, really sound time travel story that, yes, has one or two inconsistencies. You know, it's still great despite that. But what I was saying originally is, yes, clearly the narrative of Solum is core to the story. So we're going to spend a good chunk of time in this culture preventing the Civil War. And so we have to have at least a little bit of that first contact stuff that I really want. Because, of course, and that, like, hypothetical season I talk about, where I'd love one that's just the first contact. Not a season, like a show that's basically a political first contact. It'd be this. There'd be factions who, like, they don't necessarily trust Starfleet right away. There are factions who want, you know, to basically be xenophobic, to retreat into their own planet. And I really hope Prodigy scratches this itch for me. Moving on, I really like the look of Solum. I mean, it's clearly futuristic. Gwen talks about, like, the gifts her people can give, and I believe them. I'd love a picture. Yeah, I mean, this is beautiful, lovely, futuristic city. The architecture is brilliant. I love the outfits, the leaders, like, the design oozes that there's a deep culture here. Look at those people. These two are Elden Ring bosses. Like, there is clearly a lot of thought, dedication, and significance put into their existence. Like, let alone their roles in government. I'm very much looking forward to exploring this culture. I like the feel. It feels a little odd. Like, down here doesn't really feel like the city we just saw. And it is gray. Is it something about the art style that gray is easier? I don't know. But I mean, as someone who's I like to travel the world. I've seen a lot of places. This simultaneously doesn't really remind me of anywhere, but it does have, like, the streets are kind of wise, but otherwise it's it's clearly an old city, an ancient city. It's vertical in these weird little ways. Like, you got little steps, you know, you don't have cars going down here. You've got a bunch of street vendors. Like, there's clearly a culture and a world going on here. And it reminds me of a lot of places. Like, yeah, this is a sort of place I would go if I were to visit this planet. Even if it is a little gray and barren, perhaps. Yeah, I think the Voyager A is working because it's a Sovereign class and it's an Intrepid class, and both of those are good designs. I would have taken it further from Voyager, but fan home. I'll get a model eventually. I'll do those. I'll review those fan home models unless they look like absolute garbage. Moving on. Oh yeah, I forgot to bring this up in the first episode, but this was something that occurred to me as well. Why would you bring telepaths on a mission that is so confidential not even the crew can know what's going on? Like, why doesn't Zero walking by Janeway just read her mind? It is passive, isn't it? If it's not passive, I am going to talk about the scene where Zorro just read the mind of those two, like, that couple on a bench. Yeah, I always got the sense that, like, it's one of those passive telepath things. Maybe it was specified in season 1, but oh well. Again, not too much to say here. We've got a mystery. I'm pretty sure it'll be revealed at some point that this is, like, Del or Janeway or someone from the end of the season. I expect time loops. But I don't really grasp onto mysteries like this. Like, yep, we're going to learn something. I already knew we were going to learn something this season. So, maybe I should not have eaten a bunch of flavored popcorn before this stream, because it's clearly making me burpy. Oh yeah, and as I said, what is this guy's name? What actually was his name? It was something alien, the not diviner. I mean, there's so much room to do stuff here. This guy literally ran a colony of child slaves but he also ran a colony of child slaves to save his homeworld. So, I mean, he wasn't just like evil and power hungry, but he definitely was evil. But now he's literally just some nerd in a colony, a civilization that doesn't like space nerds. So I'm really excited to see what they're doing with this. I've liked the guy's performances so far. He's obviously the diviner, but he's obviously different. I mean, clearly the Civil War does a lot to this character. Um, yeah, I mean, Gwen's hiding kind of who he was, who he became in her future, what the Civil War did to him. As an audience, we know the kind of man he can become. And I even like the little hints. I love where he's like, he has the line where it's like, you didn't think I would help you. It's like, surely I can't be that bad of a father. And just awkward silence, not the response you want. And yeah, I mean, so far, the Gwen storyline is just everything I like. It's first contact, politically stuff, where we really get to know a culture. And also, it's got great character drama setups. And it seems to be very... Gwen's storyline is focused on two things. First contact with her civilization from the point of the aliens, like the alien perspective, and character-driven stories. Bam! I am in. Moving on. Yeah, Chakotay. Chakotay is going to be interesting to see. I like, we've definitely seen this chip before in season 1. I mean, it'll be interesting having Chakotay. God, we haven't seen him since Voyager. He's a character you don't usually think of as coming back, probably because, you know, Netflix. His character was quite quite problematic, of course. I had a roommate in college who was Native American, and yeah, we'll say Chakotay was not their favorite. Chakotay was not her favorite character. But anyway, I don't know how much more I have. We already talked. Yeah. Oh, look, there's the math. See, would you rather this, or would you rather my paint diagram? I'm just saying, the paint diagram is surely better. Yeah, I mean, Janeway, of course, a beloved character. I think we'll get some interesting stuff between her and Chakotay. When they eventually bring Chakotay into the series, I feel like Prodigy is a great Voyager finale. Like, when I do rewatch Voyager, I'll probably come straight here. Like, it really is. Prodigy is the Voyager sequel. Like, more and more, especially now that we've got the Doctor. I wouldn't be too surprised to see, like, some other alumni come up. We probably won't get Tuvok because he was in Picard, but at the same time, Tuvok was around. And yeah, it's just nice again being in that late 24th century world, or yeah, like 2480s, where you have Picard, you have Janeway, you have the Dominion War pretty recently, and Lower Decks is there, yes, but Lower Decks are, you know, the underdogs. They don't really get involved with that. It is kind of nice being Janeway again. We're actually with all of these heavy hitters, like, proper in the deeps. We're pre-Martian attack, you know, this is still my utopian federation. We don't condone torture on Section 31 bases that we fully acknowledge and accept are real. Yeah, I've already talked. Again, I mean, I've been going for like an hour, but I don't think I have a huge amount truly talk about here because I've already discussed a lot. Yep, having telepaths on board really backfired. It was just kind of you know, you could see where it was going. You could see that they were going to launch the shuttlecraft. I've suspected this Vulcan is going to be a part of the main cast because we see her in a lot of the promotional material, in a lot of the thumbnails, in the trailers. I did watch the trailer because I was looking for a specific reference image. Yeah, here. It'll be interesting. I mean, I guess she could be a foil to Del, who's currently trying to really gun for that captain seat. He wants to be a Nova Squad. Hello.
Hi, you've been streaming for a while. Do you want me to bring you down dinner?
I was probably about to end.
Okay. It didn't sound like you were about to end, so I wanted to see if I could help in case you were starting to
I'm good, but I'll probably do another episode after this. So I might get dinner in between.
Okay.
What eat?
Just wanted to check on you.
Thank you.
Do you need water?
I'm good.
Is that full?
No, actually, yeah. Go ahead and fill it up.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I could see either the Vulcan lady becomes a sort of foil where Del realizes something about connection with his friends that actually, you know, he does have to start at the bottom, or there's joy to have at the bottom as he works up to that, like, captaincy that he'll eventually probably have. Or, and he kind of does something to the Vulcan to make him less snobby. You know, they didn't want Del and, like, sort of Janeway's fan club here, or Janeway's favorites. Maybe he helps bring her down or something and realize that actually they're capable, or, like, don't be an Enterprise era Vulcan. No one wants to be an Enterprise era Vulcan. They're just a bunch of words I can't say on on a G-rated. What actually is Prodigy? Hang on. That's curious. It's probably technically like PG. I remember a few years ago I was in a movie theater and there was an ad for like a live action Winnie the Pooh or something. And in America, at least, probably, you know, in other countries, before the trailer starts, you get like this screen where it's like rated whatever, rated G, rated PG. And it tells you why. It's like, here's what's in it. And I remember that the Winnie the Pooh movie was rated like PG-13, probably just PG, for exactly one thing, and that one thing was some action. Like, it's Winnie the Pooh! How is that not G for general audience? How is it PG? Like, for some action. Like, surely any movie has some action. That one really got me. Also, what the heck is this void? Is that the warp core? Good lord, that engineering is big. But yeah, I think that's probably it. I am interested to see where we go next episode. Who Saves the Saviors, which thankfully is a thumbnail that exists because they didn't change the title of that episode. As I said, I think I'll do another. I think I will do another. So, what's going to happen? Let me just check. 23 minutes for episode 3. So I'll have to watch it for 23 minutes. I'll probably get something to eat. A little bit of buffer time. Like 45 minutes from now? 6:15. We'll see what YouTube schedules. I will create the live stream, the next live stream for episode 3. I will go watch it. You can see, just keep your eye out in the next few minutes. Whoops, that'll pop up. And you can get something to eat, go to the bathroom, watch episode 3, do whatever, and we will review it. It will probably be my last one of the day. Then tomorrow and Wednesday, the next 2 days are probably going to be very similar to this. Then the 4th and the 5th, Thursday and Friday, we are going to blitz through and get through the rest of this. But yeah, I don't believe we're at a 2-parter. No, we're at a 1-parter. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do one more. I will say thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. I do not have the end stream. Why is the end stream button not red anymore? Why is it gray? That's like not danger colors. See you next time.